I have your attention, please? The show starts in 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go.
And now, coming live from the Midwest Racks and Rods studio, it's the Outdoor Show with your hosts. This is Scott, I'm Drew, that's Nick, back over there is Luke Ortman, and with special in-studio guests, Luke Chatfield, because that's how he told me how to spell it.
That was the easiest way I could describe it to you.
Nicely done. Nicely done. Welcome, everybody, back to another episode of the Midwest Racks and Rods Outdoor Show. Today we are, as you just heard, we're joined by Luke Chatfield, local guy here, somewhat local. You're out of Port Washington, is that right?
Based out of Port Washington.
Awesome. Well, we're glad to have you here. But before we get into the conversation with Luke, Drew, would you take it away and talk about some of our partners here?
And tonight's episode is brought to you by Tagged and Bagged. They specialize in pre-taxidermy packaging for waterfowl. Their mission is to provide hunters with the highest quality packaging products to ensure preservation of a hunter's prized trophy. Tagged and Bagged products are made with the best materials and are designed to withstand the toughest hunting conditions. Go to taggedandbagged.net. Taggedandbagged.net.
Not dot.
That's what I wanted to say.
Sorry, Johnny.
I screwed up the word. Taggedandbagged.net, folks. Get on it. And by Bucket Ready. Bucket Ready offers premium food plot seed for the best results when attracting wildlife to your property. Knowing what deer prefer, when they prefer it, and putting the best seed together for deer in your special hunting spot is what Bucket Ready Performance Food Plot Seed Mixtures is all about. BucketReady.com. You know it. Get on it.
Well done. Well, done.
Oh, you're done. All right, you guys got it from here. I'm just going to rest my mouth here a little bit.
Sip a little bourbon. Hope you guys grabbed yourself a cocktail. We finally talked Mr. Faber in here into cracking a Miller Lite there.
I did.
It's for the koozie at least, right?
It is.
You know,
I gotta fit the part.
What is that? What koozie is that? I haven't seen that koozie.
Oh, yeah, that's one of our new fishing koozies.
Oh, what the dickens. I need one of those.
All right, guys. Thanks again for joining us tonight. Luke, how are you? Thanks for joining us.
Good. I'm good. Thank you. Oh, see? This is the problem with having two Lukes.
Right. Our producer looks like he's going to the microphone. He's like, I'm good. Thanks for having me here.
This is the first time you've asked me this, actually. I'm doing pretty good. Thanks, guys.
I'm good. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Luke, you are a big salmon fisherman. In fact, you have your own charter out of Port Washington, Wisconsin. Is that right?
Yeah, correct. I've had my own business now this will be my third year as a charter captain. I've been in the industry. This will be since I was 14, and I'm 25 now, so math is 11. So I've been doing it 11 years
nice
now.
Mathing.
Yeah, that was
mathing.
easy. So this is my 11th season on the lake, third year as my own captain of my own boat.
Awesome. So what got you into fishing?
So I originally lived in Iowa, moved up here when I was about 8 years old, and my dad took me out on a charter with Foxy
I'm going
Lady.
to stop you real quick. You said you were from Iowa,
yes.
and now you're here in Wisconsin.
Yes.
Why did you do that?
My dad did that. And then he left and went down to South Carolina and just left me here.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, we don't want to. I don't think we want to go down that wormhole. But okay, so all right, as you were, so now you're in Wisconsin.
Yep. So I moved to Wisconsin when I was about 8. My dad took me on my first charter, which was a Foxy Lady, and I really, really enjoyed it. We went on one basically every year until I was about 12, 13 years old. And Dan Fox was the guy we went with. He's kind of like the pioneer in Port Washington. He's been doing it for 45, 50 years now. And I kind of just started to hang around the boats and kind of just, pay more attention. And eventually he offered me to be a first mate for Captain Nolan. And I took the position when I was 14 and worked for him for a year, and then went to work with Captain Alex. And I worked with him for 5 years before I kind of just took a break and fished privately myself, and then got back into it for doing it myself for my own business.
So when you say you were just hanging around, what do you mean you're...
So I was... When I graduated out of high school, I was being a mechanic at a shop in Port Washington, and I bought my own boat, which was a 33-foot Pro Line, and I kind of just did some local tournaments and kind of just wanted to improve my skill set without being pressured by customers all the time. I wanted to be able to just grow myself as a fisherman without having to worry about pleasing everybody else while I was trying to do that. So I would go out, learn new techniques, fish on days that it was tough. I wouldn't go when it was easy. I would go when it was the toughest, so I could just make myself into a better fisherman.
Well, that's fascinating, because I typically do things by myself as to not disappoint people, not as to hone my craft.
So,
fair point.
Yeah, I kind of just went from there, and then decided I didn't like doing, a regular day job, and I kind of wanted to grow myself something to have for the rest of my life, and that's when I got into the charter industry for myself.
Sure. And when you said that you, when you got the job offer to work on one of the boats, how old were you at that time?
14.
14. Sorry. So that's where you were. And how did that come about exactly?
I just was kind of just hanging around and showed a lot of interest in it.
Yeah, I guess that's what I meant. When you were hanging around, what do you mean hanging around?
Like they would come in from trips, and I just, check out their catches and just kind of ask them,
Just asking questions.
Yeah, asking questions all the time, and then I'd help clean the boats for a couple extra bucks here and there.
Sure.
And then first mate position came open, and I was like, I'm taking it. This is what I want to do. So.
And you were 14 at that time?
Yeah, 14.
Oh, very nice. Very nice.
Yep, so my dad used to drive me to work at 4 o'clock in the morning every single day till I was 16, till I got my driver's license.
That's awesome. Wow.
So, yeah, I got to thank my dad for that.
He was pretty excited about you turning 16.
Yeah, he probably was. He probably was. Get a driver's license. He doesn't have to get up at 4 every day anymore.
So, when did you meet Luke here?
I don't know.
Tuesday?
Tuesday. No, no. A couple of years ago. I helped him out with Nolan and stuff with guiding a couple of years ago when they actually had ice in the bay, and went on a couple trips with them too. Myself, actually, personally, met him there, and then last year I didn't even know that he was doing tracking for dogs, and we had one that my buddy shot. Actually, I bet you I called you 8 or 9 times this year for buddies that had a deer that was wounded and whatnot, or didn't know how it was shot. So then we talked even more about it, and then we talked more fishing and whatnot when I was out in port, and then, just kind of went from there. Just one of those people, kind of same thing with Isaac. I knew him, fished with him a couple times, and then just built a friendship out of that.
Sure. All right, so 18, you're 18, and that's when you bought your boat.
Yeah.
And is that the same boat you have now, or no?
No, so I've had a couple different boats. The boat we originally started with was a 33-foot Bertram that me and my dad went in together on.
Okay.
And then we sold that one, and we ended up getting a 33-foot Pro Line, which is the boat I ran for a while. But then I decided I kind of wanted to dabble in walleye fishing at the same time, so I decided, I'm selling the big boat. I'm going to get a smaller boat, so I can do both. And this was in that duration of time where I didn't, fish for that whole entire year. So we sold that, bought a 19-foot Crestliner, brand new, and I went and fished walleyes with that, and then fished salmon with that. And then after that boat, I kept that boat then. That's when I got into chartering, and I went out and bought a 35-foot lures. And I ran that boat for a year. Sold that boat because I hated it. It just didn't like the boat at all.
Yeah.
Sold that boat and ended up buying the one I have now, which is a 36-foot Tierra.
So you bought a 33-footer at 18.
Yeah.
I gotta know how much coin did you drop on that?
30 grand.
Jesus Christ.
That seems pretty fitting.
You got a button right.
Okay, so when you had, I'm trying to keep all these boats in line here.
Yeah, I've had a lot.
So you bought a smaller boat, and that was because you were getting into walleye.
Yep.
And that, and you were doing some guiding and stuff.
That's when I was not guiding.
Not guiding,
Yeah, not
okay.
guiding. I wanted
But
to.
you just were getting into walleye
Yeah,
fishing.
so I wanted to walleye fish again for a couple of years before I felt comfortable being able to take someone out and charge money for
Sure,
it. You know what I mean?
hone your skills.
Yeah, and I I did some other fishing with it at the same time, so I just kind of wanted a boat that was multi-species. Can't at that age at 21, 22, you can't own a big boat and a small boat at the same time if you're not making any money with them. I mean, I don't know where you'd find that much money at that age to spend that much money on.
Yeah.
The bank doesn't give out loans to 21-year-olds very easily.
$30,000 maybe. But
Right.
I was saving up from cleaning up boats in Washington, and I got myself a $30,000 boat. I'm gonna go and clean some boats. I'm gonna hang out. I'm gonna hang around Port Washington this summer.
I feel like the police would be called pretty quickly on me if I was just hanging around the docks.
That's
I
a
need
big
some extra
fish.
money. Hey, you're out here, buddy.
Can I come on your boat and help you clean? That's the code word, clean. Okay.
Clean. Go.
Yeah. That's your ticket in.
Nice.
Awesome. I thought you were just gonna say something.
No, I got nothing. I was thinking about making some money.
I'll hire you.
There you go. You
I
clean
don't
his
have my
boat.
sea legs.
All right. So, what made you finally? Was this all just a build up? Did you have this plan?
I didn't really have the plan, but I knew that like a regular 9 to 5 job wasn't me. And like I said, I was working for a mechanic for 4 or 5 years while in the wintertime while I was in high school and kind of just accumulating money, just building myself up to what I was doing now. And then I kind of just realized that, hey, I want to do something for myself, not just sit and work a 9 to 5 job every day. I want to build something that, and I enjoy charter fishing so much, not for the fishing aspect more of it. It's more watching first time people come out on a boat and catch a big king or catch a big walleye or something like that. It's the, I've caught plenty of them. It's watching somebody else do it. That's what kind of made me move more into the industry.
Which is crazy. You're 25 years old and you're already at that point where it's like that's where your satisfaction is. I feel like a lot of people would be disingenuous if they said that, but if that's if that's where you're at in terms of your fishing career that's pretty impressive for somebody your age. I'm not going to lie. I mean, that's
Yeah, I just never found, I fished fishing tournaments, I just never, really got big into tournaments. Them guys are nuts. Isaac, you guys had on here, that's a hell of a tournament fisherman.
Right,
Them
absolutely.
guys grind harder than anyone I've ever seen, fishing-wise. I go out and I have to catch some fish for a family or a group of 6 buddies that are coming and hanging out. Those guys are paychecks rely on, catching that one fish. And I just never, got into that side of it anyway. I just found more pleasure in the guiding side of it.
So what does a typical day look like for you then? I mean, so you don't have a 9 to 5, right?
Yep. So my typical day, if you're talking, salmon fishing, big boat in June, my typical day depends if it's a weekend or a weekday. A weekday, usually we run 1 to 2 trips a day in the week, which you start at, 4 in the morning and you run your first trip 5 to 10, and your next trip 10:30 to 3:30, and you're kind of just done for the day after that.
Okay.
Weekends are a little busier. I try in June when the fishing's really good for cohos. I try running 3 a day on the weekends, which is 3 5-hours. I try doing 5 to 10, 10 to 3, 3 to 8. Just try and get as much in because that's the best prime time fishing for that's the best season I would say for a family with kids.
Okay.
Because the cohos are a little smaller. They're the best tasting fish in the lake in my opinion. But they're a lot easier for kids to reel in because they're smaller fish. Big kings are 25 plus pounds, while they take 700-800 feet of line out, so they're a little harder to reel in.
Yeah.
So it's a great time for families to come and let their kids reel in as many fish as they want to. So I try and get as many people out in that month of
And
June
you
as
see a
possible.
lot of that then. You
Yes.
see a lot of families coming out.
Yep, June is my busiest time for the family aspect, or a bunch of guys that want to come out and just catch a limited cohos because they're great eating fish.
Yeah.
So it's kind of the busiest months. The busiest month on the lake is June for sure. I do a lot of trips during the month of June, and then July is really good for bigger fish. But we start tapering off on trips into July and August. But the best month is definitely that last week of May, and the whole month of June is usually the best.
Nice.
See, I always thought Gobies tasted the best.
You thought what?
Gobies. Those little shitheads that are on the bottom.
I thought you were initially referring to like the little goldfish.
Oh, no.
Little crackers.
No, lampreys are good too. You try those? It's like a spaghetti noodle.
What?
Those lampreys. Have you got a couple of them this year?
I got a couple of them last year, yeah.
It's a big, basically snake with the teeth. It just sucks right on the side of them.
Yeah, no, I totally.
They're great when you stick them on your buddy's arms. That's the best. They do that all the time.
Dude, if you look in their mouth, they look like demons from hell. Like it looks like little sharp teeth. I never touch. Are those actually sharp?
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
yeah, they suck.
Oh.
Yeah, they're great.
No pun intended there?
That's what she said. Yeah, I mean, because they have to latch on. I mean, it's not just a suction thing. They actually have to get those teeth in or whatever.
Yeah.
If they're actually teeth, I don't know, but they're sharp.
They're like little. It's kind of hard to describe it, but they will gnaw a hole in the side of a fish. I mean, they'll stick on there really good.
Yeah.
Jesus.
Yeah.
And that's freshwater. I mean, and then you have them in saltwater too that attach themselves to sharks and things. And
the first one I ever caught was Winnebago like 2 years ago. I've never caught one before. I've seen other guys catch them, but I've never landed one.
Yeah, I'm out.
just caught one by itself.
No, it was on the walleye.
I was gonna say like
walleye.
Like
Flopped it off and
I was like, I was jigging with just jigging there,
With a goldfish. Yeah.
and I caught a lamprey. Oh, that's far out, dude.
Indeed.
All right, we got a little sidetracked, as we tend to do.
That'll happen.
As we tend to do. Like I said. So you getting away from the 9 to 5, Luke? Our producer, you can just go ahead and stop that right now. He's trying to pull the air horn thing. He knows it drives me crazy.
I love the air horn so much. I'm sorry.
Why do you encourage him?
I can't help it. It's wonderful.
All right. So you're doing this. No 9 to 5. So what are you doing throughout the year then? And you're guiding throughout. You're doing ice fishing, obviously, right?
Yes.
You got to be guiding somewhere doing that. What are you doing there?
So I do two different types of ice fishing. First, I start off in the early January. As soon as we get ice, I do ice fishing for browns and steelhead through the ice. So that's Milwaukee, Racine, Kenosha, kind of any of the little harbors or tributaries that get ice on them. So that's that's a trophy fishery. You're not going to go out there and you're going to catch a bunch. You're going to catch big ones that are trophies. Brown trout aren't in the lake as much as they used to be, and during ice fishing season, you're catching 20, 25 pound browns through an 8-inch ice hole. I mean, it's one of the most. It's one of the funnest things. I look forward to that every single year, but we just don't. This year we didn't get the ice for it.
I was going to say, how did this year go?
Yeah, this year was tough. I fished about a week and a half. I had that was really good, and we probably ran every day straight for that week and a half, and then after that it was just. One day it would get cold and we could get out there. So the thing is, you're fishing on harbor ice, so it's always fluctuating. You got Lake Michigan coming in and out. There's not very many places to go in the first place, and it's becoming more popular over the years because people are like, dude, I can catch a brown trout in Wisconsin through the ice. Like, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So it's becoming popular. So it's getting harder and harder to fish on these little chunks of ice that you have in the first place.
Yeah.
So there's just a lot more people, a lot more pressure on these fish, and these fish do not enjoy pressure whatsoever at all. Brown trout are very, very hard to catch under pressure. They're very temperature oriented. They're very just tough fish in general to catch.
So that's always been my fault. I get to the hole, I'm like, come on, you, putting the pressure on. I'm like, come on, get out of here.
I was gonna have you elaborate on that. Define what pressure is. Like, so for somebody that has no idea, what does it mean to be pressuring these fish?
So just the amount of anglers that are out there nowadays.
Amount
of anglers. So when we're fishing these fish, we're fishing them with automatic fishermen and jaw jackers, which are automatic hook setting devices. They're like a tip up. Mm-hmm. So when I'm out there and I'm running a guide trip of 3 to 4 people, I have 15 rods out for these fish. And then if you imagine you guys are with your buddies, 200 yards away, you have another 12 rods out.
Yeah.
So these fish can't swim more than 60 yards without seeing a bait.
Yeah.
And the amount of people that, you're walking over them all day long, and you're in shallow water, you're in 7 to 8 foot of water. So the noise above them, the amount of fishing pressure there is on them, and like I said, they're very temperature oriented too. So when it's super, super cold out, they don't bite like they do, when it's warmer out. They're like a warming trend biting fish, in my opinion, there is anyway.
What depths are you fishing in those?
Usually you're typically fishing them right close to bottom, like a foot off the bottom.
Sure. But I mean, what is the depth of the water?
7 to 8 foot.
7 to 8.
Yeah,
So really shallow.
Yeah, you're in shallow. I mean, you're in all, like, if you picture McKinley Marina or Reef Point Marina in Racine, it's all the slips where all the boats are kept all summer. That's where you're fishing them.
Okay.
Is inside all those slips. So the browns in the wintertime, they're migrating out usually of the rivers in that January, February. They're coming out from spawning because they spawn in the fall, where the steelhead are starting to go up the river. So you're kind of in a transitional period between steelhead coming up, browns coming out. So you're catching both of them at the same time, basically, which is nice because they have to come through the harbors to go into the river.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, and I think sometimes we don't realize when you're fishing that shallow water how much your activity on top of the ice can affect that. And I think it varied. Would you agree that it varies from species to species?
Absolutely.
In terms of that,
Yep.
where some fish are a little more tolerant of that is
Of the noise.
and stuff.
Yep.
I mean,
I would say so. Like, we've had usually our best days are during the week. There's not a lot of people out there.
Yeah.
There's just us. If I can take up a big enough area where it's just me and my guide trip, then, usually I can just tell guys, hey, if you're going to walk around, stay around the ice shacks, leave the rods that are 100 yards away. Leave them, just don't walk by them. Don't give the pressure to them, and just, walk around. That's usually our best days. Weekends are tough. There's, I've had to get to some of the marinas at 2 o'clock in the morning to even get the spot that I want to fish.
yeah.
There's guys that were camping out on the ice this year in Racine. I've never seen that before. There's guys camping overnight. I mean, there's, like what I'm saying, the angular pressure is just becoming a lot more and more, which is good. I mean, people are getting out fishing. It's great. It's tough when there's not that much ice to fish, especially when we have a year like this year where we had hardly any ice anywhere.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
Would you say that the pressure on those days where you had guys camping out overnight and that, do you think that was just because of this winter, or have you been seeing that even in the last couple of years?
I haven't seen it in the past couple of years.
So is this guys
I
really
think
trying to
it's-
concentrate
yes.
on those times and be like, look, we have a small window to get this done
Yep.
based on the way this winter was going. I mean, it was crazy. I mean, did you even get out? You got out a couple times.
I got out
just
twice.
generally ice
That
fishing.
was it. Yeah, and then I had the trip in Minnesota. But take that away, I went 2 times ice fishing this
Yeah,
year.
isn't that
was it.
crazy?
Wow. And that's why I think too they were more busy down there because people couldn't get on Winnebago, Poygan, everybody that go from Milwaukee that goes out fishing out there, goes to the bay, goes to De Pere. There was no ice. So if they can stay home and fish in the harbor, at least they can get out and go fishing. I think that was another big contributor that area got hit because that's all I'm stuck with fishing. I want to fish. And if the ice is safe there, I don't care if I catch anything or not. I don't know what the heck I'm doing. I'm going to go give it a try. It's right here.
I completely agree. Like, I can so 100% get behind that this year because we lost so much time. Like, once we're done with brownshell and steelhead, I move into whitefish on the Bay of Green Bay. I made it out to the actual white fishing spot, which is like either Larson's Reef or, other places that are majorly white fished on the Bay of Green Bay. We only made it out there once, and it was by airboat. It wasn't even we didn't ever got to take our side-by-sides out there this year.
Oh, wow.
We never got, we bought brand new side-by-sides, and they never saw the ice.
Yep.
Not once this year.
Wow. And last year wasn't much better too, honestly. I mean, that was the first year that I didn't even come up and help because you guys were getting out there, but it was like you had 2 weeks and that was it.
Yeah.
We had to stay close to shore again.
Yeah, the last 2 ice seasons have definitely been tough.
Yeah.
Definitely been tough.
And it sucks. I mean, a lot of those guys like Lonnie and Brett, I mean, they got 100-some freaking shacks. I mean, you think of the money they're losing. I mean, every single shack is probably right around $400 to $600, if not more, depending on when they have.
Right?
Yeah. So you add that up, you got 50 shacks and over half of them are full, and now you're not running any. I mean, that was had to be a huge hit on some of those guys.
Even the local businesses. I mean,
Yeah.
look at Sturgeon Bay, the hotels. Like Sturgeon Bay is, you talk about Brett.
Yep.
He's got 50 ice shacks out there, get 4 guys in them a day. Well, where are those guys staying? They're staying in all the local, hotels. They're
Yep.
eating in local restaurants. All that
bars,
stuff
everything.
this year.
Yeah.
It took
Yeah,
a hit. Everything took a hit this year.
Snowmobiling.
Yeah.
I heard of like a lot of those towns and such this year were actually applying for grants because of the amount of tourist money that they weren't bringing in, which is just crazy to think about.
Well, it's devastating for them for
Absolutely.
sure. And it makes you actually wonder, because you had mentioned that like last year wasn't a whole lot better, and it really wasn't
No.
in a lot of cases. I mean, just when we were going out ice fishing and stuff, ice was really sketchy and scarce.
And this is 2 years in a row now, so it's like, how long is it going to keep going? I mean, I like being in the boat, so I didn't care. Like, I got to go to the Wisconsin River, Wolf, and De Pere, so I like ice fishing, but when I had the chance to get in the boat and go after walleyes, I was like, all right, screw it. But then again, now I look back, it's like, I only got to ice fish 3 times this year.
Right.
Like, wow. I'm like, I used to do that in a week. I'd have 3 or 4 times just in 1 week.
Exactly.
An entire year.
It makes you wonder too, like, okay, so global warming, right? That's a
Damn
hot
cows.
topic, right?
Farting.
It's a hot topic issue and stuff, but it really now, understandably, this year was an El Nino year, right?
Yep.
So it was kind of predicted well in advance that this is going to be the case. But again, we're talking about last year, and I mean, this has kind of been an ongoing thing. I used to be a big snowmobiler, for a number of years, until I hit a tree at 50 miles an hour and put the kibosh on that. But anyways, it makes you really wonder about that. I mean, I don't want to get into that real deep into this subject or whatever, but what kind of effects can we expect to have if this becomes a trend where our lakes aren't freezing and things like that? How is that going to not only affect the fishermen, but the fish themselves too?
Yeah. I think it sounds bad. Don't get me wrong. I'm going to go off topic a little bit. The Battle on Bago thing, the winter edition, I used to enjoy doing it. And then I saw the board on how many walleyes were pulled out of that lake. I think this year the Bago system got a much, much needed break.
A break, sure.
Yeah,
I agree. I agree 100%.
I think I'm not trying to trash talk. I love Battle on Bago. Great event, really fun, cool. I just wish that they did a little bit differently because I feel like the amount of fish that get pillaged out of that lake on those 3 days and people pre-fish. I mean, the one year that I saw like 10,000 walleyes that were registered, they're all dead. That's 10,000 dead walleyes right there. That's also, you can only use it per ticket. So you think that that's the only fish that got kept? No, if the guys were nailing them, I bet you there's probably close to 20,000 fish that were kept in 3 to 4 days.
Wow. Yeah.
I mean, you add that up, they can't take a beating like that. I mean, it's just a big party day where everybody's out there setting tip-ups and everything. It's hard on that lake. That's why I said I think this year was great. I think that, again, I don't want to try and bash it, but they shut it down, and I think that system in the next 3 to 4 years, we're going to see a really nice boom of healthy fish.
So I feel like I say this damn near every episode, but at the risk of sounding ignorant, explain it. And again, a little bit off topic here, but this is something that it's always piqued my interest, and I'm curious about. Explain pre-fishing a tournament like that. Mm-hmm. What is the? I mean, is it to figure out the habits of the fish in that particular time, or where
Looking
the honey holes are?
Yeah, the honey holes. Pretty
Yeah,
much.
yeah. I mean, like when I was doing with Isaac last week on Friday, when we were pre-fishing, we were trying to find fish not only with the locator, but like cast a few times and see if they'd attack or bite. And as soon as you catch it, you leave it alone. When you're pre-fishing, you're not fishing for fun. You're literally fishing to find fish, find active fish, mark as many pods of fish as you can. And the problem is too, the reason why you try to find 10 to 15 different locations with fish is half of those by the time you go back the next day, they're not there. They could be a mile across the lake on the other side on Bago.
Well, right. So that, I guess, to me, that's why it's always seemed kind of odd, because they are so very unpredictable.
Yeah.
Right.
It depends on, if there's bait fish there. If the bait stays there, the fish are going to stay there. Depends if bait moves. Depends if there's structure like a rock pile, or if you find like a little weed bed. They're probably you're going to find a couple bites in there. So it's finding what the, bite's going to be, the lures that are going to be. And again, hopefully you mark 10 to 15 spots and you can go back and at least one of them is going to provide fish for you. Otherwise, during tourney day, if you don't do at least some kind of pre-fishing, you go out there, you're spending the whole day hoping you land on a pod because you have no idea where to start now.
Okay. Yeah, no, and that's pretty much what I had thought.
Yeah.
I just never really asked in a public forum.
Well, there you go. What are your thoughts? Like, how much? I don't want to get into finances or whatever, but how much did it affect you greatly this year? Or
Absolutely.
I mean, or did you have to find other ways, to kind of work around it, like move around and find places to get your clients out on the ice?
Yeah, so I mean, we did a fair. I mean, like I said, I had that one really good week and a half of brown trout fishing, which was good. I got, the brown trout ice fishing market's kind of a skinnier market because it's not a market where you can take people and they're going to keep fish. This is just guys like Nick that are coming out to trophy fish. This is the fish they want on the wall. No. This is the fish they're coming for. So the market's not as big as it is for like whitefish, where you could go out and keep 10 of them a day and you can eat them. So the white fishing part of actually, pretty much killed us. We go out, we buy brand new side-by-sides every single year so we can get clients out to the permanent ice shack. So you get all this money. Luckily, I don't absorb a lot of that overhead. I work for another guy, Nolan, who absorbs a lot of the overhead of the permanent shacks.
So, and that's on the ice fishing side.
Yeah, that's on the ice fishing side. Okay. Yeah, I work with him on the ice fishing side for whitefish. The brown trout stuff is my own thing, but whitefish on the Bay of Green Bay, I work with him. I worked with him when I worked for Foxy Lady, and we just sat down together and we said, what's the point of competing with each other? And we just work together.
Yeah,
I'll
makes
just work
sense.
for you
100%.
Instead of, me going out and building 15 permanent ice shacks and all the other stuff. And so I just work with him and it's easier. We get two side-by-sides and we can run back and forth. If he needs a day off, I can run it. If I need a day off, he can run it. Just kind of, you get guys like Nick that can help out on the weekend. It's just nice. So this year we basically did a couple trips close to shore. We had like a week of where we could fish by, Sturgeon Bay, kind of just close inshore stuff. Apart from that, nothing else. A lot of the bigger guys like Brett, Lonnie, they went out and bought airboats because that was the only way you could get out to some of the pieces of ice.
Bought airboats.
Yep, bought airboats.
Yep.
Bought big $100,000 airboats.
Yeah.
Enclosed airboats.
They're not freaking cheap.
No, they're not.
No, absolutely.
No, and it's like, for the amount I do, I can't justify spending 50 to 100 grand on an airboat.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah, well, the hard thing is, too, you can only take so many people in the boat. Like
Right.
the side-by-sides, you can ship out. You could have 50, 60 guys.
Yeah.
Now you're going out there, you have to have pop-up shacks, and you can only fit how many guys in the boat. And then when you're driving out there, those things obviously aren't the fastest things out there, and you got to kind of watch it.
And they break all the time.
Yeah.
They're always
So you can run
broken.
a guy
Airboats,
out there.
right? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they're the hardest things to maintain.
You run a group out there, then you got to come back, and you might be able to get one more group. You're really not making a big profit. The money you're going to spend on that airboat, it's going to take you way longer to accumulate that unless you can ship more people out there.
Yeah, 100%. With the side-by-side, you get two side-by-sides and 15 permanent shacks. You can run 4 to 5 people out in each machine at a time. So we're running 40 people a day. That's where the money comes out on the weekends.
Yeah.
When you've got an airboat, it's nice. You can work every day of the week when there's crappy ice conditions. You kind of, with an airboat, you extend your season by like 2 weeks, and then you extend your season at the end of the year by 2 weeks. So you gain basically like a month of extra fishing because you can go out on that skinnier ice that you can't take a side-by-side on. So the airboat's also nice too because it's kind of a safety feature. Because if something happens where a crack opens, you see all the videos of guys in Green Bay that are stranded.
Right.
The airboat's a nice thing to tell your customers, like, hey, I have an airboat. If something happens, it's here. There's plenty of times where we fished by Brett because he would, in the morning, we were able to drive our side-by-sides or walk out to some of the spots, but he'd bring his airboat and park it on the ice. So if anything happened, we could just get in the airboat and go.
Yeah.
But we also couldn't get out to the prime fishing locations that are 4, 5, 6 miles out because the ice was never good enough to get out there. So it shut down a lot of business this year for a lot of people.
Yeah, even that fish cleaning place, I bet you they took a huge hit.
Yep.
I mean, they pump out guys, fish nonstop. I mean, there's hundreds of thousands of fish that run through there.
Absolutely. Yeah. It hurt a lot of industries, I'm sure, this year.
Yeah, I mean, obviously the hope is that this is not a trend that we're going to see continue.
Yeah.
I can't imagine the stress level that winters like this can create for guys like you, and as well as surrounding businesses and that, like we talked about just briefly before, up north and that, when your livelihood, your business and that is dependent upon having clientele and having the conditions be right, whether it be snowmobiling, whether it be ice fishing, all these different things. That's It's pretty intense, you know, if you think about it. I'm a little stressed out just thinking about it. You know,
And
like
it's not
it's
my money.
like, and it's not my money, right? No doubt, for sure. So, but how long you been involved with I mean, have you always been ice fishing as well?
Yeah, I've
Kinda
I kind of
you're just a fisherman.
Yeah, that's all. Again, right now, that's all I do full time. I mean, I do some snow plowing stuff, obviously, when we get snow, just to make a little extra money. But
Yeah.
this year we had no snow, so
You're like, I'm going to use it to supplement my
Yeah.
income because there's no ice. Wait
Yeah.
a second,
Wait
there
a
also
sec-
isn't any freaking snow
yeah,
either.
right. Yeah, this is just
Son of a-
this is just a weird winter. It's just a very, very weird winter.
Yeah.
Well, can we get you something to eat? You want something to drink or anything? I know times are tough, so if you've eaten anything lately.
Give them a Mountain Dew. I mean, Jesus.
I mean, that's
Pork chop in a can.
There's plenty of beer in the fridge. But. All right, Luke Ortman, our producer. What are we at for time there? Okay, I don't know what. 333 minutes. All right.
I don't
Well,
know.
we've really extended. I think at this point, guys, we're going to go ahead and take a brief intermission here because we're partaking in the beverages on this Thirsty Thursday. And
Calling in the troops.
I think
don't
it's
know
gang
what
signs now at this point. I don't even know. It's gang back there.
36. That looks like 33.
36?
36.
30.
36.
Do you know what? I don't. Is that what they do in the industry?
It is. It's good.
But yeah, we're gonna take a quick break.
Stick with us, guys. While we are away, anyways,
Yes.
and you're getting another beer or another cocktail, and while you're waiting for us to come back, and we'll be back in about 5-6 minutes here.
Yep.
I would implore you to go, if you're not watching on YouTube, head over to our YouTube page and subscribe. We would really, really appreciate that. We'd love
Hit that like button. Hit the subscribe.
If you only follow us on Facebook, but you have an Instagram page, we'd really, really appreciate it if you spent a little time right now on this break. I think it would take maybe 10 seconds
It doesn't take
to
long.
find Midwest Racks and Rods Outdoors on Instagram.
That would be splendid.
Give us a follow there. And if you're only on YouTube and Instagram, but you also have Facebook, hey, while you're at it, give us a like and a follow over there too. We'd also appreciate that.
Hit that bell so you get the notifications too.
Yeah, hit
That's
that
right.
bell.
Hit
But
the bell. Now we got.
I don't want to ask too much of the people.
530.
I mean, the subscribe would be great.
Well, how else are we going to give more giveaways?
Exactly, and we have some coming up.
Yeah,
We
see?
got some good giveaways coming up. We're not gonna.
That is magical. That is magical.
We got
found
some.
it right
we
behind
have some stuff coming up for you guys. So you're gonna want to stay tuned. We're not gonna give too much away for the rest of the show.
Oh, no.
But we do have some giveaways. So, yeah, like I said, hit those subscribes and follows and likes. We greatly appreciate it. We appreciate all you guys
Always.
always. So, all right. With that said, we'll be back in 5 minutes.
Get on it. We are back, and our second segment is brought to you by Buckstik. Buckstik is a year-round communication system for white-tailed deer. It's an all-in-one licking branch, rubbing post, and mock scrape system designed to present the three main glands at the ideal height for white-tailed deer. Buckstik.com. That's right, folks. Buckstik.com. Get on it. And, of course, Stealth Outdoors and Uncle Lou. Stealth strips from Stealth Outdoors not only eliminate metal-to-metal clank, but they also improve tree stand silencing and concealment. Hunters who use stealth strips love stealth strips. So what are you waiting for? Go to stealthoutdoors.com. That is stealthoutdoors.com. Get on it.
Hey, you got the .com right that time.
I did get some of it right.
What was it before?
I had to take my glasses.
Diddy Kong, Diddy Com.
I need
It's all about the Diddy lately.
readers. Getting old. I can't read no more.
I see Jason Trader, our guest from last week, has hopped on the live, and he's like, "What's up?" And Drew sent you an email. What's that all about?
He sent me an email. Pretty excited. So we're going to be partnering. The company I work for is going to be partnering with him.
The Branding Hunter?
Branding Hunter to take care of our promotional needs.
Awesome. Very good.
Yeah, really excited. Jason, I just proposed everything to the men that be, because I am not the man that is. And we
What even the hell does that mean?
well, you got to be, and then with that thing, so then there's that.
It's a regular Randesh and Teshmo reference. All right, guys, welcome back. And
It tastes like I'm not working tomorrow.
nothing wrong with that. It's Friday. It's Thirsty Thursday, folks.
That is right.
Here's the Thirsty Thursday. And we want to thank you guys for sticking around and hanging out with us tonight. We're with Luke Chatfield, salmon fisherman. The guy likes to fish.
And guide for fish.
Yeah, exactly. So,
Is that all you do?
That's it.
You know, hunt.
I do a lot of waterfowl hunting. That's about it. And that's kind of like in my off season, like October, November, December.
have you heard about tagged and bagged?
I have heard about tagged and bagged.
Okay, good.
.net.
Oh, there we go.
Redemption.
It's a lot better than Diddycom.
What's your dog do?
God, I'm never going to live that one down.
Don't you have a dog that does something?
I have a dog that does deer recovery. Yeah.
Yeah, so how long you been doing that?
Last year was my first year. So
Okay. What kind of dog?
Silver Lab.
Silver Lab.
Yeah, he's pretty cool, dude. He's 2 years old. I sent him off to do deer recovery training. I was never really a big deer hunter by any means, but I always found love for dogs. So I've always wanted to do something with my dog. And a couple years back, my buddy shot a deer. My buddy's uncle shot a deer. They didn't find it, so they called in a tracking dog. And I thought that was the coolest shit ever.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I definitely want to do something with this. So I had another dog at home. Well, he's a lunatic. So I definitely wanted to get another dog for doing that with. So I decided to get the dog I have now and send him off for training. So he did training for 4 months at a deer recovery place up north. And then I got him back after summer, after I was done. Then I worked with him really, really, really heavy till deer season started, till bow season. And then luckily I had Nick, his buddies, like to not kill deer.
Not make great shots.
I've done it a few times this year.
So luckily I had these guys. They would call me no matter what to kind of just help with the dog with training.
Sure.
Yeah. So the training methods are you're basically training the dog to track off an interdigital gland that's released between their hooves when they're
Everybody
stressed
thinks
out.
it's blood because I asked you the
Yes.
same thing. So I want you to dive into that because I'm
Yep.
like, so is he sniffing blood or no? And I'm like, that doesn't make any sense. What the hell's he smelling? Then there's 100 deer that go down this trail. How does he know it's that deer and not the other one that ran that way after
Exactly,
a shot?
because the interdigital gland is like a footprint or a fingerprint.
Yeah,
Correct.
See, I didn't know that. I was like, what?
Each one is different in that, and again with Buckstik in that, like Drew had mentioned on there, we use with Buckstik the 3 major communication glands. That's the preorbital, the forehead gland, and the interdigital gland. And a lot of people, again, when they think of dog tracking in that it's blood.
Yep.
That it's the blood they're finding.
Oh.
And then when you say, okay, well, no, it's the gland. It's a gland right in between their hoof, right here, right in there. That's where they excrete that interdigital gland. Well, how do they know the difference?
Yeah.
How do we know? Like, I mean, there's deer running all over the place because it's like a fingerprint. Each one is individual. And yeah, we can't decipher the difference between the smell of bread made at Chocolate Factory, Subway.
No.
Or Jimmy John's or whoever's, like we can't break it down, but dogs can break it down.
Correct.
In fact, they can know the difference between all the ingredients, even though they don't know how to make bread. At least never any dogs I know, man. I don't know.
Not yet.
Maybe you're
Yeah, no.
And did you
but
say
that's the way they break it down.
Yeah. Didn't you say too that when a deer is shot, hit, it gives off a whole new smell, right?
So basically, it's the more stressed out they get, the more that interdigital is released. So like the dog, so basically the dog is trained on blood as well. So when you get to a hit site where, the deer has been wounded, you basically introduce the dog to the blood. And then the dog then notices, here's the blood. Okay, now I can detect this footprint of this deer, and I can now follow this track.
Yeah.
The hardest part for a dog is when the ground is super dry because it doesn't absorb that interdigital into the ground. So like when I came to track yours, the ground was super dry then.
Yeah.
Super, super dry. Until we got back in the swamp, which that kind of sucks too because
Yeah.
it's like 3 feet of water and you
That
can't
was a
really,
bad area.
you kind of can't really track in that. But
yeah.
for a dog, you want more of like a wetter, moister ground. Like after, like if you shoot a deer and you can't find it and it's gonna rain overnight, never worry for a dog
Right.
because that is perfect because it pulls that scent right off of the ground and the dogs love that. I have found more deer after a rainfall than I have on any other scenario at all.
Right. Which is completely the opposite of what most hunters think. They're
I
thinking
was the same way.
it's going to rain.
It's all gone. It's going to go on the ground and gone.
Well, yeah, in terms of if you're going to track blood,
Oh, yeah, yeah.
if you're going to visually try to find blood, yeah, it's washing away.
Yep.
But we had Jamie Dom on 2 years ago,
Jamie's fantastic.
Yeah, with
he has
Superior
helped
Deer
me
Tracker.
out so much.
That's awesome.
Yeah, he has been such a great help when I text him and I ask him because I'm obviously new at it, so I like
Sure.
to ask a bunch of questions. And he was a great help. Just with me calling and say, hey, I'm in this scenario. What would you do in this scenario?
Right.
Because the dogs aren't perfect, and especially this is my first year behind my dog. The dog is better than I am, but it's knowing how to read your dog in scenarios. Because when your dog gets to a certain point and they're just like turn around and look at you, now you need to help the dog.
Okay.
And there's certain scenarios where it's like, okay, where do I go from here? And I always run Onyx on my phone. I always look and say, I've been here. He's on a GPS collar, so I know where he's been, but it's running him back to check, basically restart where you were.
Right.
And a lot of these tracks we go on, there is no blood. There is no anything to help at all. So you're just 100% trusting the dog.
Yep.
And, basically the dog will do its job. It's the owner of the dog that has to have the experience behind the dog.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
And what's the number one thing you told me? If you shoot one and you're not sure when you hit it or how you hit it, and you're like, I think it was a bad shot. You told me one thing that a lot of people make a mistake on, and when they're going after it right away, you always told me to
Do not grid search.
Yep.
Never grid search. So what happens with a lot of the deer that are not found is hunters grid search. And that's where it becomes a huge problem for the dog because that gland can stick to the bottom of your shoes.
Right.
So
spreading it around now.
if you get 4 or 5 guys in there that walk that line and then get to where, I have no blood anymore. Hey guys, let's fan out 15, yards apiece and walk. Now the dog has to go through and work every one of those lines until he realizes there is nothing there. You could look at my Onyx on my phone and look at a guy's Onyx on his phone that I'm at his property, and you can see exactly to the T where that guy has walked by where the dog has gone.
Sure.
And that's the hardest part about recovery is just getting people to leave the animal long enough.
Right.
Let it lay.
Yep.
Leave it alone.
Well, especially if you think you made a bad shot, why even look? Just get a dog. If you shoot a really, really nice buck and you I don't know about that shot, I'm not sure, leave it. Get a dog. You have a way, way better chance of getting a dog right away and not even going after that deer, taking one step on it, 100 times better than ever even walking 100 yards and looking.
Yes.
I think that is so so much easier said than done, right?
It is.
It's incredibly correct.
Yeah.
But I mean, just even from gun hunting this year and having a horrible opening morning hunt where, turns out my scope is bad and ended up having to use a different gun. Shut up, Scott. Had to use a different gun and shot a deer. No, it is. I checked it. It's loose. But to the point where now I'm sitting in the tree, I shot it, and you're second guessing yourself.
Yep.
And so I'm like, well, wait a few hours and I got to go take a look. And then, well, here it is. I found it, but now where's the deer?
Yep.
I definitely got it. And I'm like, well, now I got to go look. It's different, right? That's a gun, but nonetheless.
No, well, I think there's something to be said about taking a look, right? Like taking a look at the spot that the deer was and maybe a 20-yard perimeter, around just to see, what you have for blood so you can identify some blood. Especially it happens with archery equipment too. They don't bleed necessarily right on that spot.
Right.
Yeah.
Correct.
But I think what you're getting at is to not be advancing, going out 50 to or maybe even 100 yards or anything like that and starting to that grid search. I mean, I think if you want to, I feel like you're safe to venture out maybe 30, 40 yards.
I would personally prefer if you didn't.
Not at all.
Not at all. Because the cleaner the line, the easier for the dog.
And the faster, too.
And the faster. Because, I mean, like, I could show you there's a couple tracks that I've been on that I ask people, like, hey, did you lost blood. What did you do? Mm-hmm. Oh, I backed out and called you. My dog will run right through that. Like, it won't even be a question at all. He'll be like, yep, we're going this way. But and
the dog will also tell you if they lied to you.
Basically. Yeah, basically. Because
no, you're full of shit.
Yeah, well, there was, to go back, there was an incident like that. I went to a track, thought it was a clean line, got there. I tracked the 200 yards, lost blood. He's like, and I backed out. Okay. And I always like to leave them, 15 to 20 something hours, depending on where they think it was hit. Mm-hmm. Archery hits are a lot easier to, kind of give you a little, clue of where the deer was shot. It's a lot easier than a gun hit. So this was an archery hit. I went there, to do the recovery, and my buddy Grant was with me, and we got there. The dog ran flawlessly for 250 yards, and he got to 250 and he stopped. And I've never seen him do it before. He just stopped, and he was like looking around. And when he puts his head up, I know something's not right. So I backtracked him, took him back, and all of a sudden we started running all these different circles. And I left my buddy Grant with the guy who shot the deer, and all of a sudden the guy's got his phone out with Onyx and looking because Grant had my remote. And my remote for the dog was to the T where this guy had went and looked. And Grant's like, did you do this? And the guy's like, yeah. I'm like, that took me an hour to work the dog through all that stuff.
Right.
The deer ended up still being alive after it was all said and done. We got show cam pictures of it 3 or 4 days later. But that would have helped me, decipher, hey, I'm doing this because the dog needs to, not because this is where the deer went. It's because the dog needs to do this.
But instead, he was spreading the scent.
Yeah.
This interdigital.
Yeah,
game.
I get that a lot. Clean lines are awesome. If you can get a clean line where the guy just backs out after 100 yards, lost blood's getting skinny, back out, the dog's going to bullet right through it. If it's a dead deer, the dog's going to find it.
So, and I've talked about this on shows before, but for those of you who don't know, so like 4 years ago, I shot a nice 9-pointer, and he was quartering away, and as I shot, he quartered even harder. And I videoed the whole thing. I was using a DSLR, and the arrow went in, and at first I thought it was a good shot. And I'm reviewing the footage. I'm like, it's not as good. And I kept reviewing, and you only have a little viewfinder like this, right? To the point where I took my phone out, and I'm recording it so I can zoom in on my phone and get a better look. And I'm like, every time I watch it, the shot got worse and worse in terms of, like what I thought initially, to the point, honestly, I was actually wrong. I thought maybe I had hit it in the rear in the hind quarter. And I was thinking, and I knew that, but with that angle, that it was still going to hit some sort of organs. It was going to go through guts or whatever.
Right.
I sat in the tree, actually started messaging Jamie, and just trying to get, and he's like, well, if you think you hit in that hind quarter and you maybe hit that artery, the femoral artery, he's like, well, then you want to push that deer.
Yep.
You want to get that deer to bleed out. Well, I said, at this point, I haven't even walked down to the point of impact to look at anything. I haven't looked at the arrow. I said, this is just based off of what I'm viewing from my stand.
Yeah.
And that from the camera. So I got down and I looked at it, and there was gut matter on the ground. The arrow was there, smelt it, it's gut. There was some blood there, though, as well. So I didn't feel confident about it. It wasn't meaty.
Yep.
It wasn't that femoral artery. There wasn't blood spilling there. I maybe walked 20 feet beyond, and then just found a little more gut matter on the ground. I'm like, that's it. I'm out. I'm going the completely opposite way out of here. Told my buddy Mike from the team, I said, when you leave, don't go this way, because he was hunting on another part of the property. I'm like, we got to get out this way. So anyways, the route that he took out later on, when he went out, he found blood crossing a trail quite a ways away from anywhere close to where I shot this deer. I'm like, what are the odds that there was a blood trail crossing
Right.
this path out that isn't even clear? And then I'm looking at it on the map, and I'm like, because I knew the direction he was running, he was going to go to a neighboring property. So my mission at that point was to get permission to bring in. Another neighbor up there has a tracking dog, a 5-year-old bloodhound at that time, named Dozer, of course, right? Perfect name for a purebred bloodhound.
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah, I can come by tomorrow morning and we can go and search. And I already had that lined up before we found the blood. So the next morning I said, do you want to go to the spot where I shot, or do you want to go to where I have blood crossing? I'm like, what are the odds that anybody else like shot a deer at the same time and it's going? And he's like, no, let's just start where that blood was crossing the trail on your property. And we don't even have to go on the neighbors to mess up this stuff. Well, this guy's like 87 years old. When I talked to him, he's like, yeah, I hunt about 20 feet off my back porch, and that, go ahead, by all means. But we're like, yeah, you know what? Let's just go this route, because we're talking a couple 100 yards extra we'd have to go. He's like, no, let's go to that blood. We'll start from there. So we did. And he's like, just so you know, my dog's got a double ear infection in both ears, which is pretty common with those big floppy ear dogs and stuff.
Yep.
He's like, and that can throw their senses off a little bit, because they're really distracted by that. And he was shaking his head a lot. And I was actually really feeling bad for the dog. I'm like, Jesus, He's like, oh, I'm like, let's go, but let's not push the dog too hard. And he agreed. And I laid back and I kept following the blood while the dog was doing his thing. And then at a certain point, we lost blood, and the dog was going this way. Now, he's not a regular tracker. I mean, he's tracked deer with this dog or whatever, but he doesn't do it on a regular basis. And at one point, the dog is kind of zigzagging around and but he's going a direction, but I see the blood going this way. And we end up pulling the dog off the direction that it was going. And I don't know why we fully did that, but signs were pointing that the deer went this way instead of the way that he was going. And we couldn't. And finally we just called it, because I was like, I kind of said, like, this is,
not working.
This isn't working. I mean, I'm feeling bad for the dog and stuff. And he had already started on antibiotics and stuff and ear drops and whatever. Well, I had gone home, and then a day went by. And then that night I did a post and stuff talking about everything. And I'm like, I got done with that. And I'm like, I got to go back up. And I went back up, and I walked all the way through our swamp with hip waders on, thinking he was going down to water. And when I finally gave up on that, I'm going up to the top of the ridge again. I'm going to do one more circle around this ridge because I'm like, he's got to be around this area. I felt like I walked up to the top and boom, there he was. And that dog was on the right path. And it was his inexperience with doing some tracking.
Yep.
And my inexperience, or having no experience really,
Yeah.
with working with a dog and that we pulled the dog off. Had we kept going on the path that the dog wanted to go, instead of just because all of a sudden it looked like the blood was going this way, we would have, and it might have. And then he might have zig back, and he just skipped over the zig and zagged.
And just air that happened with yours
Right,
when I came to do your doe.
Yeah.
The blood went straight right. You know, when he shot it, the blood went straight right. My dog went way left, and I was like,
I even said, I was like, it's not that way, dude. I know it went this way. I'm like, I know it went that way. I heard it go this way.
Yeah.
And he's like, I'm just going to go where the dog takes me. And I was like, sitting there like, I know it's not over there. 5 minutes later, found it. I'm
I
like,
did go over there.
I looked at Joel, I'm like, no way. I'm like, come on. Like, are you serious? Like, yeah, I'm standing over right now. I walked over. I'm like, whoa. I'm like, I never would. We were going to go that way and grid search the next day.
yeah, it did. Just they were going down to the right from his stand, and the dog just, I put the dog on the blood, and the dog just went down, followed it a little bit, and all of a sudden just took a hard left, and I'm like, it was like a 90-degree left too. It wasn't like just
that last spot where I had the hat. It went. Choof.
And that was the exact same thing. So this was a hard left, and the blood looked like it was going a hard
And that's what his did too. The blood was going right, and the dog just went left. And I'm like, you know what? This is like my 4th or 5th track with this dog. I'm like, I'm trusting the dog. Trusted the dog. He ran 25 yards up, and we kind of did some zigzagging through some thicker stuff. And these guys were following the blood off to the right. And all of a sudden, I look up, and because you have to have them on 30-foot leashes. Mm-hmm. They're not able to be off leash. So I'm holding the leash all the way at the end, and this dog's pulling me with everything he's got. Yeah. And I look up, and here he is licking the dough. And I'm like,
yeah,
nice job, buddy.
It was in a thicket. I mean, it was in a hollow, deep hole. Like, you wouldn't have seen it unless daylight came. It was just so dark and so thick.
My first call was immediately to him before I called anybody else. And I was like, Dozer was on it. Like, we screwed up. Like, whether it was me or you or whatever,
I've messed up a couple.
Was right.
I've messed up a couple with not trusting the dog.
Yep.
We would have found. Now, it would have made no difference in terms of recovery meat based on temperatures and stuff. Like, it was like almost 70 degrees and stuff. We would have lost the meat anyways. But it was my determination. I was like, I'm not giving up. I know. And as it turns out, so the shot, right? So all the discrepancy looking at video and how much that can distort, if you're looking at fletching or if you have like a lighted knock, like a luminock or something, like it can be helpful, but it can also be detrimental in a lot of ways. So as many times as I watched that thing go, it did not go through the hindquarter. It entered gut, hit liver, and came out left lung. So it took one lung. The way that deer ran into where he landed, he went about 300 yards, but he ran himself straight dead because he was wet, not stuck, but you could tell the way he went into these two trees. He got his antler kind of wedged in there. It wasn't like because he was thrashing around or anything like that. He ran there and just dove into it. He wasn't stuck. That's where he died. He was dead before I even got out of that stand that morning.
Yeah, 100%.
But you have to err on the side of caution on those things.
Yep.
Or you could lose the deer altogether.
You don't know. You just don't know. The arrow can tell a lot. That's what I always tell people when people call me right away is, can you send me a picture of the arrow? And that's usually what 90% I judge off of is the arrow.
Yep.
And how far the shot is away and kind of what did the deer do when you shot it? Did it run away with its tail between its legs, tail up? What did it do when it ran away?
Did it walk off?
Yes.
Was it hunched up?
Right. That's a lot of the questions that we ask. And then we have a chart that we send out. And it's kind of, 1 through 4 on one side, A, B, C, D on the other. And kind of put the X where you think you hit the deer, you know, and then we'll kind of just give you the option of what we want to do. A lot of people want you to come right away, but Sometimes, I mean, I've bumped plenty of deer. I've been tracking deer in cornfields or swamps, and I've bumped them, and that's the worst thing you want to do. So you kind of just want. I know it sucks to wait that time, but wait it. Unless, like you said, going back to what Jamie said, if it's a one lung hit or it's a artery hit, you're gonna want to push that deer because that deer is not gonna die. You
Right.
want to get that deer moving. If it's a
To
one
pump the
lung,
blood.
you just want to keep it running the whole time.
Pump that blood. But that also goes to like where you're hunting as well.
Correct.
Like what kind of acreage, what
Yeah.
what kind of area, and I mean, there's so many different
Permissions,
variables there.
You know,
Exactly.
Right.
Like I know I got a neighbor 2 blocks over, country block, 40 acre, and that guy won't let anybody on kind of thing.
I had the same thing.
That you run those risks. Fortunately, we have pretty good neighbors around us, and but that's not always the case.
right.
Jamie is an absolute wealth of knowledge with this, and like I said, we had him on a couple of years ago, and with Superior Deer Tracking, and then being a part of the Wisconsin Deer Tracking Network and stuff. Like those guys, just the amount of knowledge. I want to ask you a quick question here, and this goes along with the tracking. But so the newest thing, obviously, is drones, right? And I have plans on having a drone guy come on the show here in the pretty near future here. Maybe probably the summer and stuff as we're getting closer to that time period or whatever. What are your thoughts on that? I don't know what your level is with the deer tracking, like if this is something that you want to supplement your income, or if this is a passion thing or a hobby,
It's
or if it's
kinda-
kind of somewhere in between.
Yeah, I would say it's in between. I like I do the charter industry because I like, catching fish for people. When I can go and recover a young kid's deer or, a guy who shot a monster buck and the joy in their face, that's the reason I do it. And to spend time with my dog.
Sure.
So that's the reason I do it. So when you get into the whole drone thing, I've seen drones in very good scenarios where, like if you're running your dog through a cornfield or that's planted and not cut, that's hard on a dog. Or swamp, like the swamp by your place, that's 3 feet deep of water. That's really hard on a dog. So they have their applications where they're good. Now, really thick stuff where, it's hard to fly a drone into that kind of thicker timber or thicker brush areas, that's where the dog is going to come in handy big time.
That's what I would think.
Yes. So I would say both of them have equally as much place as another. Now, it goes back again, though. Anybody can go buy a drone that has thermal. You have to know what you're doing with it.
Yep.
Right.
And that's the big part. There's a lot of, I've seen a lot. I don't get into the whole controversial thing with it, but there's a lot of guys in the Wisconsin Deer Trackers Network that, will say a good dog's nose will beat a drone every single time. But again, you get into that thick, swampy, 3 feet water, mosquitoes everywhere. I don't really want my dog going heavy through that. Where a drone would be super nice to just fly over the top of it.
Sure.
But again, I guess there's positives and negatives of both sides. I think to have a good drone pilot that actually understands thermal imaging and understands how to read it would be an awesome, kind of deal where, again, any moron can send a dog off to training and say, "Ooh, my dog can track a deer." You got to know how to use your dog, just like you have to know how to use a drone.
Yeah.
And that's kind of where I stand on both of it. I think there's applications for both.
You ever consider getting a drone yourself and doing the two together, right?
So Muck Dog Deer Recovery, who's like the biggest guy in the state, and I would consider he's got some of the best dogs in the state. He just got a drone and is getting into it. Now, to get a drone, you need to have your FFA license. These drones are like 10 to 15 grand for a good one. So I would say for myself,
Y'all
no.
need new hobbies.
Yeah.
Expensive ones too.
Right, and that's the thing is a lot of guys don't charge for deer recovery. It's a tip only basis, or it's like $100 or $200. So to recoup the amount of money into a drone, you'd have to be tracking every day of the week. Where like I just do it more as a fun basis and to help people out. I'm not trying to make a living off of
Not make a living, but I mean a little supplemental income isn't a bad thing.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean when it comes to the drone recovery stuff, I mean there's guys that are spending $30,000 on a drone, right?
Yeah.
Like that deer drone recovery guy that's on YouTube.
That thing better hunt Osama bin Laden.
Well, it could. I mean, they get a lot of them have FLIR and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, they're ridiculous.
And the thing of it is like with thermal and that, deer hold heat for a long time.
Absolutely.
Like you can let them sit for quite a while. It's not like, oh, we got to get this guy in here quick so that he can, get a thermal. Deer will retain. You'll still get imaging in that there. But the cost to the hunter, like, are you going to bring in a drone for a doe?
Yeah.
Are you going to bring it in for a 110-inch buck?
Yeah.
I mean, that's obviously up to the hunter for sure. My question in the whole thing is, and I'm for it because if we're thinking in terms of we should be doing everything within our power, within reason, obviously, within financial reason, and I think that goes along with it, right? To recover these animals.
Correct.
So
we don't want
responsibility,
right? We don't want them to go to waste and just become coyote food and stuff. But yeah, I mean, I think that's a personal decision. Now, the thing with drones, and I don't want to go off the deep end with this whole thing, is there's that fine line in that between using it for scouting.
Yep.
Because these guys also, a lot of them are doing mapping and stuff.
And management, herd management.
And
that
herd
kind of
management stuff.
Yep.
But so what would keep somebody from, purchasing a drone? Let's say you have 2,000 acres or whatever.
Right.
And so you're a guy that can afford, a $30,000 drone and you're using it to scout for your deer to the point where you can try to get in on them. You fly that drone, unless somebody's calling it in. I don't know. I mean, they're
changing laws for that now. I don't know if you saw that. I was following some of it. They're trying to, I don't know if it's in or not, that it's only nighttime flying drones now. Because it used to be daytime. I heard a lot of the guys were saying that they're changing it to only nighttime because guys were doing that. They're trying to find that buck. And I was like, damn, look at that buck.
So when, and Luke, do we have a couple comments about this here? If you would give them a second here to.
Yes. That Luke is lacking.
Yes. Riveting. Top notch reporting there, Luke.
Elijah said a good drone driver and a good dog handler goes hand in hand.
Yep.
And then he also says that DeMaster's drone service has a video where he can see blood still pumping out.
Damn.
Yeah. So, and all right. So Elijah said, this is the individual I want to have on the show. He's out of the Poignard area here in Wisconsin. And he's a guy that's got a $30,000 drone. And he's someone new into it. He was also just at the Open Season Sportsman's Expo in the Dells, and I got a chance to talk with him a little bit and got his card. And Elijah is the one who kind of told me about him, and Elijah and I talked to him at the Dells, and it's very interesting coming on the show. He's been on Larry Smith Outdoors and stuff. I think somebody on that level would be great to have on. And I mean, one way or the other, I don't care. Because I'm not a dog tracking guy and I'm not a drone guy.
Right.
I just want to know where we can find the happy medium within the law, where we can still say it's fair chase and all these things. But at the end of the day, I think we want to do everything we can to recover these animals. I mean, I think we owe it to these animals to not let them go to waste.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, in fact, I would love to have a dog tracker on and him at the same time in that and let them. I mean, I don't think it would really be a debate. I think there's room for all. Because even on the dog tracking side, you guys can't, as many as there are out there in the networks and stuff, you can only do so
Your
many.
dog, the thing is about your dog is you push your dog that hard.
Right.
He's eventually just going to be like, no. You
Yep,
can't
I'm
run
done.
your dog 400, I would say you can't run your dog 3 tracks a day at 800 yards apiece.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, first off, I'm chubby. Okay, I got to walk 2,400 yards to a sack of deer. Okay, I'm going to be dead by the end of the day.
Yep.
Okay, so.
Or a little less chubby.
Right. Yeah, or a little less chubby. So I mean, the dog is gonna get worn out. Then you need a 2-day, a day or 2-day break for your dog.
Yeah, no doubt.
So there, like I said, I think there is so much good between both of them that there's a place for a dog and there's a place for a drone, and they both can work together at some point. I mean, like I said, the dog. The dog is awesome. I just like being a handler of a dog. I just like watching the dog work. It's same as having a bird dog.
Yep.
It's always just fun watching the dog do its job.
Yep.
And the drones are awesome because, again, they can fly so far. They can see so far. There's so much you can do with a drone you can't do with a dog. Like that swampy stuff. Like I get to a 3-foot deep swamp, like I said before. I don't know what I want to do. Do I look at the swamp I walked through at your place?
Yeah.
I was back there for 2 hours at his place trying to track this deer for him.
We call it the Forbidden Forest because there's sumac and everything back there, and it's nasty.
Yeah.
Blair Witch is back there.
Yeah.
I mean, in the Forbidden Forest.
I felt
would
lost
imagine.
back there. I was all goofed up back there, but again, I was determined. I'm there to try and recover an animal. I'm going to put in everything I can until the dog basically says, dude, we're done here. There's nothing else we can do. And you can usually tell if you have a good dog, like I've been behind guys that have like 2 or 3 or 4 year veteran dogs, you can tell in the first, couple hundred yards of this track, is this deer going to be dead or not? You can kind of tell by a dog's behavior, which is great. But then you come to a scent pool, you got to work through all that. With a drone, you're just right to it. Or you're looking. At least you're able to search a lot bigger of an area. And on those days where that ground's super super dry and that gland doesn't stick that well, there's another good reason for a drone.
Yep.
So there's like I said, there's ups and downs to both of them. But again, a drone's got to charge and a dog's got to go home and recharge.
Yep.
So there's I think everyone just works together as one, and you can recover more animals.
Now, let's just play devil's advocate here. At what point do we say that technology has superseded ethics in terms of hunting?
Now, when you say play the devil's advocate, I would say, why does it matter if you're going to recover an animal?
Okay, so, and I guess I'll reiterate what I was trying to say here, not just in terms of the drone, but technology in general. We're seeing states right now with trail cameras, cell cams, for example, no longer allowed.
Yep.
They've been outlawed in certain states. There's the Knox that have the GPS locators in them and that. We have built-in rangefinders on bows in your bow sight. At what point, and I guess in that, with that being said, as an archer, you could say, well, at what point do we limit what you put for a scope on a rifle come gun season?
Yep.
I think that's the constant debate.
At what point do you put down your compound and go back to a longbow?
Yeah.
My viewpoint is, I think that technology is there for a reason, and we advance for a reason, right? So use it to your advantage. I don't think there's any reason why, because at some point, what you're doing right now was frowned upon by the previous generation and the previous,
100%.
So if there is something new, something better out there that's going to get the job done, that's going to be a clean kill, that's going to help you recover that animal, I think by all means go for it.
Right. Perfect. That's a great point. And then if you look at the other side of the table, they're going to say, what is fair chase anymore? What is giving this animal fair chase? It can't just be a slam dunk. We can't let technology intertwine itself into the hunting world to the point where you can just go out there and just get it done. We're not at that point right now,
It's getting close to those cameras. I mean, I've had times
But
where I
right.
know there's a buck coming through 3 times in the morning. I wasn't going to sit. It's on my app and everything. It says it's a bad night. I went on, I shot deer because I'm like, I thought tonight was going to suck, and I seen a crap ton move in the morning. I'll get out even earlier. I get sit out there. Boom, I get one.
But
Yeah.
if you're talking ethics wise, right? If you're a good ethical hunter, you're not gonna allow the technology to change who you are. And bad actors will always be bad actors.
Unethical hunters will always be unethical.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Poachers will always poach.
Absolutely.
You know.
So, and there's going to be people that are going to find a way to take that technology or whatever the next best thing is out there and use it, unfortunately, in a wrong way. And I think that's a very small portion of.
I would tend
we
to
are
agree
out
with that. I would tend to agree for sure. However, I think it is important that we do keep a close eye and monitor this. And I think that's why these things are in place, so that we don't put the cart before the horse in some cases, that we are keeping it somewhat regulated. Because look at how, I mean, just technology in general in the world we live in now. Let's go back to fishing real quick. Let's talk live
Before
scope.
the show, yeah, live
Right.
scope.
Right.
Live scope.
You know, at a certain point, what's fair, what's ethical?
Right.
You know, I feel like there needs to be these regulations, and we live in a free world. Yeah, sure we do.
Yeah.
You know, we like to say that, but I'm not
April 15th still exists.
I'm
right?
not free to drink 12 beers and go drive home. I'm not free to do that. Well, I am free to do that, but there's also consequences. So there's always consequences for actions. And I think that applies with technology in terms of the outdoors too. We like to think of ourselves as these great outdoorsmen and sportsmen and stuff like that, but are we anywhere close to the generations that came before us? Our fathers, our grandfathers, our great grandfathers. You know, look, I mean,
But then you go back and say,
could you
back in those
imagine
days,
what
look how
your
many big bucks
grandfather
are running around?
What's that?
Back in the day, look how many big bucks are running around. Like, you didn't need the technology because there wasn't as many hunters. It wasn't social media. I mean, a lot of guys do it for the social media. There was more deer. They weren't getting hunted as hard because no one cared about a like. You just told your friends and families. That was it. Now
That's
it's like
that's the
people are-
social media stuff we talked about earlier.
But social media is technology.
It is. That's what I'm saying. Though, but like social media,
You know what I
got more
mean?
people
Like
into it.
there's it's a cause and effect.
Yeah.
For sure.
For me, like, again, the drones and the deer and everything, and even the cameras, I feel like it's an advantage, but it's nothing to me like a live scope thing. Like, we talked about it beforehand that we, not picking on people, but bad fishermen can be really good fishermen because they've got a live, basically an underwater camera that tells them there's fish right there. You can cast, and then you're keeping and pounding them. And fishing, in my opinion, is obviously to find them with that is easier than a camera for deer hunting. You can find a bunch of fish, pound them out. Deer hunting, the camera tells you they're there. You still got to be scent free. You still got to be smarter than the animal. It's not like the cameras are telling you that buck is sitting over here. The GPS says he's bedded down over there. Walk up and shoot. Live scope, there they are. Boom, 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 boom. A normal guy would fish all day long and catch 3 walleyes. Now he can go out there and catch 100 because he found a hungry pod.
So,
Right.
what's that called again?
Live scope?
Okay. It just, I was just.
Never heard of it.
Just gonna write that down.
It's when you get into a live scope topic, you're going to have guys on both sides. Now, when we talked about this earlier, I am the guy in the middle. Okay, I utilize live scope for 2 months, 3 months of the year. I do a lot of king salmon jigging trips and bobber trips in the fall where I kind of need live scope because now we're trying to catch a salmon on a, jigging rod. We're not trolling. So I'm targeting them with live imaging.
Yep.
Now we go back to the walleye fishing aspect. Well, we have side imaging. So now you go get your side imaging, find your pot of fish. Well, now you got your live scope, you turn that right at the fish, and boom, there they are.
And
now,
you literally watch your bait. Like, I've got a video, I should have sent it in when we were down in Oklahoma on that paddle fishing. He had live scopes all over, and literally we watched him do it. He took it, casted it right out, because you snag these fish. Paddle fish don't eat bait. They're filter feeding fish. You can't catch them with a bait. So you just sat out there, went right at the top, wham, snagged it.
right.
Because that's you snag them.
Yep.
So you just boom. Without a live scope, you can't tell that fish is 10 feet right there and it's 6 feet down. He literally pitched his jig. We watched it go in the water. We watched the line go down right over the top of the fish, and watched him hook it. I have the video of him doing it.
How the hell did anybody even catch these things prior to
No, they do that with they actually do that with salmon up in Alaska too.
Yeah.
And that where you're snagging salmon and that. My in-laws did a trip up there. They've been up to Alaska a bunch of times. In fact, they drove from Jackson, Wisconsin all the way to Alaska and then that last trip, that's the kind of fishing they did, snagging salmon and that where, like that's frowned upon with most
us,
fishing and stuff
Right,
here.
right.
But it's just a different, whatever. Real quick, Luke, do we have any more? I feel like we had a couple comments. Demaster drones. Yeah, we heard that.
Don't give me a bad name, Luke.
Yes. So here we go. Demaster Drones, great conversation, guys. Look forward to joining you to talk more about drones in the future.
So how about that?
Absolutely.
Demaster Drones was watching us while we brought this up.
Very cool.
Yeah, we're absolutely excited to have you on and that. And if you're open to it, I would love, a back and forth with a dog tracker and that. I mean, I don't think it's going to really be an argument. I think it's just like,
WWE.
Well, it shouldn't be. Like I
maybe
said,
ECW.
they're both utilize it. It shouldn't be an argument. It's just like you gotta argue about what's better. Personal preference and what's going to work best for the situation, the land you're on. I mean, early season, I think that drones might have a harder time with more leaves and stuff. I don't know enough about it, but it's
Well, and I think this is where having them
drone
on,
Yeah.
because it is so new, I think there's a lot of misconceptions and connotations that are involved with that may or may not be true, and maybe can dispel some of that.
Yeah.
Which is why we're excited to have them on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And help either, explain how it's going to be beneficial, where it's going, and then also to, further support the fact of, look, we're just trying to do what we can to recover the animal.
Yeah, and I think it'd be good too because I'm sure he follows. Like I said, I heard a bunch of different laws coming up for drones, and different states were trying to shut it down altogether. Like one of the ones I watched, the drone recovery guy. I don't know what state he was in. He said, "I can find your deer for you, but once I find it, you cannot touch it, you cannot recover it. You have to leave it there." And it was a big thing. He did a podcast and everything on it. So in that, I forgot what state it was. You can use the drone to find the deer. Once you find it, that's it. So this guy tried everything, couldn't find it. Drone came in. There's the buck. You can't walk up and touch for pictures. I think he said you could walk up and look at it, but that's all you can do from there. And then there was a big debate on it, which in my opinion, I think that's crap because
That's terrible.
You use the drone to find it. Now I found it. Now I have to leave it lay and rot and sit. That's the state's rule and law. You can
What
find
state?
it.
Do you know what state that
I
was?
forgot. I'd have to look at it. It was like
I saw that podcast, exactly what
Yeah,
you're talking
That is
about.
the most
I saw it.
asinine thing
Yeah.
I've ever heard
Yeah,
of.
that's bass backwards.
so he found it. And there's this just giant buck. I mean, it was like probably 50 once. I mean, that thing looked huge.
So
on the camera.
eventually you can recover it when it's all bone.
Nope.
You can't even
Cannot recover it.
come
at all.
on.
You could go back a year later and that dead head's still sitting there.
You can't touch the dead head.
Nope. If you brought the dead head home like this and the DNR found out about it, they'll confiscate it and you get a ticket. You are not allowed to recover, touch it ever again in your entire life.
That's crazy stuff. That's like, that's where there's over governing on things.
Right,
You know what I
overstepping
mean?
bounds, absolutely.
I fully disagree with
So
that.
wasted it. Deer got
Stupidest thing I ever heard.
rotted away. Guy couldn't even recover it or nothing.
What the hell's the point?
Well, he wanted to see if it was dead. The guy wanted to know. He had no trail cam pictures of it. He wanted to know if it was dead, and he said, at this point, I'd rather at least see it and be able to walk up and not touch it and see it and say, okay, I know it was dead. There it is. But yeah, then again, he couldn't touch it. So stupid.
I've had plenty of times, like I've done recoveries where I've got to a property line and I know that deer is dead on the other side of that property line. And we have got to property lines and, I've even went up to doors and said, hey, I'm a, deer recovery guy. This is my tracking dog. Hey, this deer went onto your property. Do you mind if I pursue it with the dog? Absolutely not.
Right.
No,
No, I mean,
there's nothing you can do.
that's one of those things for sure that's above and beyond
Right.
Our control. I mean,
right.
and I do understand the stance of people, like, hey, it's my property, I don't want you on it or whatever. It sucks. It really sucks.
Yeah.
But that's part of, hey, it's our property.
Hit me with the horns, Tony. what did D Master? Not that horn. Plug your damn.
It was drone deer recovery spoof on the Illinois stance.
Okay.
Was that the state? Was it Illinois, that one?
Yeah.
Yes.
All right, now I'm gonna have
The
to
master,
dive
if you're
into
still
this.
if you're still with us, yeah, if you could elaborate,
If you go to YouTube, you type in, the guy's called Deer Drone Recovery. He's on YouTube. You can look it up as one of his most viewed things. And he did like 2 or 3 podcasts about it. And then everybody was pushing, trying to talk about it. Like everybody in the state got on board. Like that's a giant buck and the guy couldn't recover it. And then they started pushing back. I thought they were looking at changing the law because enough hunters got involved and said, that is a bunch of crap. I mean, why can't we get it?
Right.
So, like I said, I didn't come prepared for that, but that's the one thing that I saw watching, and I'm like,
Right.
that is dumb.
Talking fishing here, and
Yeah.
right, it always gets heat because, live scope's kind of not controversial, but it's a hot topic.
It's a very hot topic right now. It's coming up in the DNR meeting.
It is.
April 8th. It's actually on the public forum to
shit,
decide
that's right around the corner.
to decide whether live scope will be banned in the state of Wisconsin.
For everybody, not
For
like
everybody.
tournaments and
Yes,
stuff.
this is
for
for
most-
everybody.
Most tournaments in Wisconsin for muskies, they completely banned it for tournaments. You're not allowed to use them.
For
Guys
muskie?
would- Yep,
For
because
muskie.
guys would find just a giant muskie in a tournament, and they would sit there all day long and keep casting enough and keep chasing that fish and harassing it. Eventually, it's going to get pissed off and bite just out of anger.
Right.
Not feeding.
Right.
It's just like, what is, fine, boom.
Right.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah, so it comes up April 8th. Every county has their own place where that DNR public meeting will be held. Like ours, obviously, I'm in Port Washington, so ours is in Cedarburg at the middle school. It's at like 6 p.m. and you can go. It's just a public, it was put up by the public for discussion. But if it goes any further, well, then obviously it can get banned.
Yeah.
I don't think they should get banned. I think they should put a limit or where they should be used and where they shouldn't be used.
Yeah, what would that look like?
Yeah.
I say the spawn. My biggest thing, I think, again, I know that I'm going to piss off a lot of people. I love the spawn. I get it, but I think that when the walleyes are spawning, I think that live scope should be left alone. Let those fish do their thing. Quit harassing them. Quit bothering those females, killing them and stuff. I think that's the biggest thing to me. Was like we're already harassing these fish enough during the spawn, and I do it. I'm one of those guys. So I'm the person that's doing it. Since I can go and do it, I do it.
I'm getting paid to do it.
Exactly. And that's the thing. Like, we're harassing these fish and we're hurting our own system, but we can do it. So until something tells me that I can't, I'm going to do it.
Right, because if you're not doing it, who's to say?
Everybody else.
Somebody
Yeah,
else is
so-
going to, right?
But then, that's how things perpetuate
Yep.
and get to the point where nobody's self-regulating.
Yeah.
Sort of,
Nope.
but if the technology's there,
Yep.
and you got the means, then
They have to do something. Like I said, I love live scope. I love watching it. I don't know enough about it. I've only used it a few times at the Isaac and whatnot. It's a fantastic unit. I get it. I'm neither here or there. If they got rid of it, it wouldn't bother me personally because I don't use it. But you also have to keep up with technology like we were talking about, and you have to try and regulate certain things because as technology grows and it makes fishing and hunting easier and more animals and more fish are being removed out of the system, we have to protect our system and let these things have a chance.
But, but to that point, right? So, I suck at so much in my life, right?
You can get paid for that, by the way.
OnlyFans.
Thank you for playing that. But so ice fishing, right? We do our annual trip. It's always a great time. My gosh, really hope that you can join us this coming year.
I was in Minnesota, wasn't I?
Yeah, well,
okay.
let's not go to Minnesota because that's stupid.
Well,
But
which you had
anyhow,
invited me to, but it was the same weekend.
Yeah.
Where'd you
So-
guys go?
We just ice fished on
Beaver Dam and Fox, I thought.
No, Lake Montello.
Lake Montello.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Montello Lake in that.
And so really struggling. I'm not catching much. Pulled out a few, and then we had a couple of Vexlers around, and like, oh, no one's using this one. Dropping in the hole, and just boom,
Yeah.
boom, boom.
And that's the thing. When I was growing up,
you know what I mean?
Vexlars were live scope.
Right.
When Vexlars came out, no one had it. Everybody said Vexlars should be banned. Same thing. They were talking like this is
Nobody's
cheating.
pissed
It's so
at
easy.
Vexler. No, right?
No, because the technology grew and Vexlars are just the old
Exactly.
style, and it just keeps moving up every year.
It's ancient history.
it is. Yeah, they work. I use it all the time, but I'm
for
just
sure.
saying,
But it's
not what it
now
used to be.
ancient.
But that kind of ties into the point that I was making earlier, right? So the next thing that comes out, everyone's up in arms about it, and this is bullshit and this is that. And we shouldn't be doing this until the next thing comes out. And, well, this ain't so bad.
Yeah.
I'm going to start using Vexler. I'm going to use a compound bow.
It's the dulling down.
Yeah.
You just dull things down enough until the point where, like,
I mean, right. And I think there's a fine line.
you can fly a drone over a lake and pinpoint where all the fish are.
Exactly. Well, my buddy does it for carp shooting. They fly a drone over.
Yeah.
They literally find pods of carp with it. They've got lenses and everything. They go over the top for their carp tournaments.
Right,
and
we talked
they don't
about
even leave
that.
the dang boat.
Yeah.
It is a very interesting discussion because to your point, right? Where is that fine line when it comes to ethics?
Yeah.
And I'd really love to dive more into this just because of, when it comes to somebody that's, all right, I'm not the best at anything I do, right?
Here we go with the self-deprecation.
No, it's really not. It's being honest, right? I'm
honest when I say you're very
It's like my nickname is Even Steven. It's if I come in first one time, I'll be last the rest of the time.
Yeah. Jack of all trades, master of nothing.
Right. So when you have a tool, right, that's gonna help even the playing ground for you. No one has ever said that to me either. You know what I mean? So why not have the opportunity to use that tool to help out your average outdoorsman so that they can become a little bit better?
It's true. Now, that's why I said I agree. But again, now we're harvesting more fish out of the systems because of this technology, and now it's going to hurt generations down the road, our kids'
I
kids.
think.
And the bag limits have never changed.
Exactly.
That's where the problem has occurred is you get these guys that go out to, Madison Chain Lakes and catch all these bluegills. Well, you're taking 25 panfish a day out of that lake.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I can tell you with live scope, I can see a fish 100 feet away.
Yep.
Okay, so if I'm on my boat and I'm using my trolling motor and I'm driving around like this, I can see that pot of fish 100 feet away.
Yep.
You could never have done that before with all this, and now you could just sit on this school and just pillage them, and one after one, you can catch a 25 in no time.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, no,
But it'd take you all day.
I'm curious to know what our boy Mike Mason is doing in Austin, Texas right now. that's a little bit further away from the Pac Northwest.
Right, absolutely. But I'm going to just kind of revert back to you said, like, how it could help the average hunter and that. Well, it's not the average hunter or average angler or whatever in terms of whatever we're talking about, outdoorsmen, whether we're talking live scope or, drones, all these different things. It's specifically, if we're going to talk live scope, who are the ones that are really benefiting from the above average fishermen in that? Correct. They're the ones that are using it to the extreme, that understand it inside and out, frontwards, backwards, and inside out, right? Yep. Whereas the average fisherman probably isn't going to use live scope. No. And if they are, they're not probably utilizing it the same way as your more advanced fishermen are.
That's a great point.
So in that case, yeah,
Yeah, great point.
I don't know. I don't know exactly how I feel about it, but I just think it's something that we need to be aware of and thinking about.
Yeah.
I think we just need fish, bag limits and
bag
that
limits
kind of
would
stuff.
be a really
I
good
think
thing.
it just needs to be controlled more. Like I don't think it should be banned. I don't think it should be welcomed into arms. I just think it should be monitored a little bit more, and these bag limits need to drop on these inland lakes.
Yep.
And the walleyes, they're hugely pressured, like you said, in the rivers in the spring. You get 200 boats out there with
on a weekday. There's 200.
Right,
boats.
exactly. Yeah. Now you look at every single boat out there. I would say 75% of them nowadays have a live scope hanging offside of them.
Without a doubt.
I could drive through Ocado, I could drive right down the shoal, and I can tell you every single boat has a live scope hanging off of it because they're so readily available. And people will say, "Oh, they're really expensive," and we don't need live scope. Well, that's because they just don't have one.
Yeah.
Most guys that have used one and have seen them are going to buy one.
Yeah. Well, again, think about it. Like all the time that we spend casting for these fish, nonstop all day, completely blind, we're catching fish. Now you have the pod. You're sitting there. I can literally cast it on top of their damn head and catch them.
Right.
You can't tell me that that's not a huge benefit.
Right. It's a target. It's a targeting.
Not
thing.
a benefit. It's an advantage. It's a massive advantage.
I can fish 4 hours and nail my fish and be like, "Yeah, I'm done. It's been 4 hours." On a typical day, it'd take me all damn day to do what I just did.
I mean, I will say the side of it is, it lets you locate the fish.
Yeah. You still gotta
but
get
you
'em to
still
bite.
have to get them to bite. You still have to have the cadence
Yeah.
right. You
Sure.
still have to do all that stuff. But it takes, like I said earlier, it takes an average fisherman and it makes them good.
Yep.
It takes a good fisherman and makes them great.
Fantastic.
That's a
You
great
know,
analogy.
and that's
Like
how
that.
I look at it is
Yeah.
guys will really, again, it's like all your tactic cameras. You went from, I got to check my SD card to,
and you're walking in dragon scent and they're
Right.
biting deer.
Yep.
Going to check it. Now I never have to go in the damn woods unless I got to change my batteries.
Yep.
I never pressure my deer. I never bump them. Never bring scent in there.
Panel now for him too.
yeah, right.
Yeah, you don't have to change the
said car
batteries.
battery.
Yeah, it's right. It's
Yeah, no, and to our friend here, Ben Schmolt, that said that this could go on forever, and I think he's
It
right.
could.
It really
Right.
could.
Yes.
Ben's
Ben's a great guy. I bought off of Ben when I first started doing this. And me and Ben have had this talk before about LiveScope.
Yeah.
He's a big LiveScope guy, just like I am. I mean, I utilize it all the time because it's there and it's available.
That's
That's the thing is, it's
And I'm
there.
not hating. Like I said, I'm not either
Right.
way. I'm just saying that things might have to change if the technology changes. We got to protect our resources. We keep it if you want to keep it, fantastic. But we got to come up with better rules than to protect our fish and make sure that we can continue to catch fish
great
and our
point.
kids can catch fish. That's
Correct.
the thing.
and like Luke said, I think changing bag limits and things like that
Protecting them during the
is
spawn.
probably the easiest
Absolutely.
thing that we could probably do
Yeah.
to preserve our resources there. But wow, I mean,
We
this
didn't even
really
get to talk turkeys.
I know, and that's okay. That's okay because
Not.
yeah, we're gonna get Drew all worked up here.
Is he average at turkey hunting too? Yeah.
yes, I am.
His technology is me calling him in,
Bingo, ready to go.
and I just keep getting better.
Just tell them to point and shoot. That's
So
all I
at
need.
some point, you're just gonna have to turn me down a little bit before it's not ethical anymore.
Yeah, I know.
But anyway, no, I love how this spun, and we really got into some awesome conversation here, and that's a great thing that we like to do on this show.
Yeah.
Is let the conversation kind of take course.
Well, it's nice that it's not just scheduled and planned. It's the same talk. It's bringing something in. Again, like we said, LiveScope was a huge thing that's booming right now. Everybody's talking about it. It's not,
Everybody.
yeah, it's hot topics, and
It's definitely
is.
something I want to touch more on.
Oh,
you
and
know, down the road.
I think
and I'm
that's
sure we
definitely
will.
definitely gonna happen for
Yeah.
sure.
I have hours behind that live scope. Hours behind figuring out settings and how to use it and where the best scenario is. Because
Sure.
you can take it to different bodies of water and you have to be able to adapt that live scope to different bodies of water. Like you said, if you don't know how to use it, it's not going to benefit
right.
you.
No, it won't.
You know, like you give live scope to me and Isaac, we're going to know exactly how to dial it in for the scenario we in. You give it to the average person, they take it out of the box, and if
Give
it
it to
doesn't
me.
work,
I'll say it's like
and they're going to hit reset to factory if it doesn't work right.
Yep.
You
I
know?
was in the boat with Isaac and I pre-fish and I jumped up in there. I saw a fish and I was casting. I'm like, what am I doing? Like, did I do that right? And he's like, get out of the way. Go back in the back of the boat. Get back where you belong. I'm like, okay, that was fun.
Yeah. Yeah, you got to understand cone angles. You got to understand distances. I mean, if I tell
Distance is huge.
Distances
I
is
tried
huge,
casting
man.
A couple times and I'm like, what the heck?
Yeah. Yeah. You got to understand, like, if I tell a regular person, like, cast 35 feet this direction, normal person is not going to know what 35 feet is on a boat. Not at all. So, again, it takes hours and hours of learning. I took
Yeah.
5-gallon buckets and spoons and threw them into 5-gallon buckets in my backyard so I can learn my distances.
Sure.
So I can be accurate.
Yep.
Right.
So that's how it makes a good fisherman way better.
Yep.
Well, I know we talked a little bit earlier about some of our giveaways that we got coming up. We're not going to dive into all the fine details of that because that is how we get you. And
We're gonna reel you
We're
in.
going to reel you in as
For the
as it
next
were.
episode.
But I don't know if you can see, we have this lovely hooded sweatshirt over here. That looks like it's a new color, is it not?
It is.
Oh,
It's red.
fascinating.
Red
Deer
on
blood
black.
red.
Weird. I
Deer
don't
blood
know. But, so I want you guys to make sure that you tune back in, guys and gals, right? We have another show coming up in 2 weeks, right?
Yep. Maybe next week.
Maybe next. Who knows? At
Maybe
this
we'll go for
point.
3 in a row here. But yeah, we actually have a slew of guests we have lined up. It's just kind of a matter of scheduling everybody and getting everybody fit in. But we have a lot of people reaching out, people I've reached out to, really excited about I mean, I don't even know.
Lou.
Like, we might almost be, at some point, we might have to do 2 shows a week here because just
good,
with the
though.
timing of everything in that. But with that said, Luke, thank you so much for
Yes.
joining us tonight.
Thanks for having me, guys. Appreciate
It's
it.
a lot of fun.
Only
Luke
me.
Ortman behind the scenes there because he took a bow. Thank you for manning the ship there.
And don't forget too how they can get a hold of him for a guided
Well,
trip.
we're never
We almost
gonna have
forgot that.
Absolutely, Luke. So, if somebody wants to book a trip with you, how do they find you?
You can find me 2 or 3 different ways. My Facebook is at Ninja Charters. You could go on my website, which is www.ninja-charters.com, or you can give me a call, 262-689-5630.
And he just did that. He just put his number out there into the metaverse.
Oh, God, it's everywhere.
It's there now.
We still get some
Internets.
pictures coming through.
You didn't
he
see his
doesn't
new
wanna
tattoo?
I don't want to see his new tattoo.
Hang on, I don't think so either.
And
All right, guys.
we're canceled.
Thanks for tuning in to another episode of the Midwest Racks and Rods Outdoor Show. We'll see you guys very soon. We'll let you know when the next show is. It might be next week. It might be in 2 weeks. It won't be any longer than that for sure. But as always,
Always
was outdoors.
outdoors. What they say.